Yes, good morning, people, or good afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. This is R Duncan Williams, and you are listening to From a Rooftop Perch. You know, a rooftop or a tree is a wonderful place for contemplative thought. Great place to ponder from. Now, I'm not actually sitting on a roof. That would undoubtedly be perilous to my health to try and record from such a height. But such thoughts as I will share with you today came from such a perch. My intro music is a historical piece by blues artist Memphis Slim. As a teacher of history, I enjoy listening to great music from the 20th century. All right, well, let's get into the thought of the day. I have a photograph that I took a number of years ago of my niece sticking her head out of the backseat window wearing swim goggles. It's one of my favorite photographs. Now, I took the photograph on the 4th of July. Our extended family had spent the day frolicking in a nearby lake. After our fingers had wrinkled to ridges and our skin had overindulged on vitamin D, we loaded up the vehicle and headed home. Typically, the zany antics of children en route to a fun-filled activity tend to wane into snoozing and silence during the return trip. But this time, it was different. Though my niece's body was probably fatigued from hours of swimming, her imagination was anything but. As we traveled down a hilly country road, she decided to roll down the window. A 60-mile-per-hour slipstream whistled past, air moving much too quickly for her to stick her head out. Or was it? An idea in her head suddenly flickered to light and glowed. There were goggles in the car. They had protected her eyes from the lake water. Why not from the rushing wind? And so, my niece grabbed the goggles and placed them on her head like a WW-1 aviator. Contact. Lift off. Head out the window. Imagination airborne. Hearing squeals of laughter tumbling about in the currents of an open window, I turned around. There was my niece with a huge toothy grin, her lips flapping and fluttering. The edges of her smile stretched back to her earlobes, and that's when I saw it. There was something more going on than just a girl having a blast and living in the moment. She had caught hold of something elusive, just long enough for me to see it. A joy set free by a vivid imagination. I was witnessing childhood in all its beauty and purity. I captured the image on my phone, and it set me to thinking about my own life. I wondered what it would be like if the step of my present and future was influenced by such an imagination. Not childish in nature, but childlike. How would my view of myself, others, and the greater world be altered by seeing with fresh, imaginative, and hopeful eyes? My thoughts reminded me of words spoken by Jesus when he said that unless one becomes like a child, he or she can neither see nor enter the kingdom of God. He seemed to indicate that the road to truth can only be found by taking on the mindset of a child, teachable, humble, creative, and able to believe the unbelievable. It makes sense that there was such a prerequisite. For how else would anybody be able to see and accept the one who walked on water, multiplied fish, healed the terminally ill, and raised the dead, unless he or she had the wondrous mind of a child? It is this type of mindset that I believe we all need to adopt. Unfortunately, for myself and others, it is one that tends to get blurred and lost in life's clutter. That once variegated, spontaneous, and imaginative thought that could fashion fantastical new worlds, envision unanticipated inventions, and propose unconventional solutions to problems disappears. But the encouraging news is that one is never too old to begin growing young again. Hopefully, this podcast will make the process a bit easier. So strap on your goggles and get ready to stick your head out the window. Until next time, thank you for listening to From a Rooftop Perch.